are trying to survive and thrive right here.
The council hearing room was at overflow capacity as hundreds of residents showed up to listen and weigh in on this latest proposal to raise the minimum wage.
I'm again testifying in opposition to the minimum wage, which would increase the county's minimum wage to $15 by 2020.
So I strongly urge the council to pass the clean $15 wage without exclusions or delays.
The measure has strong support from low-wage workers who are trying to make ends meet.
It's very hard today. Everything's expensive. Maryland is an expensive region of the country. I have to do many jobs.
But some business owners say raising the wage to $15 per hour would force them to close their doors.
When I started to put the numbers on paper with this increase has affected us so far and how it will affect us in the future, it became grave reality of what was to come if we do pass the increase in its current form. It will cause us to lose our business. Without a modification to the law, the way you have it written, we can't survive.
The measure passes 5-4.
The council passed its first minimum wage bill in January, but did so with a 5-4 vote. Not enough to keep the county executive from vetoing it. The bill was reintroduced with modifications, and lead sponsor Mark Elridge says the time is now to pass this proposal.
When I talk to most people, they understand perfectly well that nobody can live on $11.50 in Montgomery County. Nobody's confused because, even middle-class households, we've been cited as one of the most difficult places for middle-class folks to live. Housing costs are just way too high. And, we know that half our renters are spending over half their income on housing, and if the standard nationally is 30%, they're way over what they ought to be spending. And as long as wages are low, it's going to continue to be a problem. So it's the right thing to do.
This would give folks more purchasing power to be able to pay for all the needs they have and maybe reinvest back into the local businesses and communities and services.
Mr. Leggett has asked the county council to amend this new proposal to a later date and also amend the numbers of employees in defining a small business, something Council President Roger Berliner says needs to be considered.
We had enough businesses who came to us and said, we will lay people off. Councilmember Berliner, if you adopt it at this pace, I am out of business. I will lose my business. I will lose my home because I mortgaged my business with my home mortgage.
Though there were 40 folks who testified on the bill, few were business owners like Ron Zimmerman. Representatives from the Chamber of Commerce were on hand on behalf of that group. They said those merchants don't want to alienate their employees by testifying against the bill.
And so when they come to express concern about this issue and they are misrepresented in the press and maligned and called out for expressing their opinions, that's their business, that's their livelihood on the line. And so we represent them. As a member-based organization, we're here to be the voice of business.
Besides being in favor of raising the wage, one young man testified about additional struggles he faces in the working world.
There is a discrimination based on skin color, or name types, and yes, even age. Though I'm an adult, I'm young. And so I am treated differently by other adults. I have certifications and training in my field, but find that biases about my age and race hold me back.
I appreciate you for showing up, because for a very long time in this conversation about who I was fighting for, I'm happy to see that someone is coming to speak up and fight for themselves about what it is and the reality that exists out there in the world. I hope that the media will report that a young black man came and talked about the disparity that continues to exist, regardless of whether the minimum wage is $15 or not, that young black men aren't getting jobs. Thank you, sir.
Mark Elridge says there is no need to make any changes to the bill that's on the table, and he's confident he has the votes to get it through.
The worry seems to be all on one end, but when you talk about people making $11.50 and wondering how they adjust to paying rent and buying food for their family, not a word from the proponents is slowing it down. So I'm not interested in delaying this. I think 5 years is plenty for small businesses. I think 3 years is absolutely appropriate. If we were like California and New York, we'd be going after the big stores in a much shorter time frame, and that's not in this bill. So I think it's fair.
In Rockville, I'm Susan Kennedy for County Report This Week.